Go Island is brought to you by German Auto Import Network.
It's actually quite beautiful out here now that the snow has stopped falling and the big melt is on. We're talking recaps of Nanaimo City Council meeting today.
An interactive crime map for Nanaimo, poetry as medicine for mental illness, and a brand new challenge in clock.
You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. We're going to talk with Nanaimo Mayor John Rattan as well as City Manager Ted Swaby later on this edition of Go Island. But first, we're throwing things over to Annette Lucas. The city, in cooperation with the Nanaimo RCMP, have started a crime map, interactive crime map. Here's Annette Lucas with a closer look. Before we get to the business of Nanaimo City Council meeting that took place on Monday, February the 24th, we're going to talk about snow and snow removal. Was this something the city was prepared for this time around?
Well, we're prepared because we realized January, February, and early March are snow times, but I don't think we really anticipated the sustained snowfall that went on for several days. And, I really want to give credit to the crews. I mean, they worked their hearts out to make it possible. And yes, there were concerns. I had complaints from people that their street wasn't plowed early enough. And we respect that, particularly those that have mobility issues. But really, you first give priority to the emergency routes so that the fire truck and ambulances can have access, and then you span out from there. And I tell you, one of the biggest challenges that the snow removal crews have are cul-de-sacs, because a lot of times there's vehicles parked in the cul-de-sac. By virtue of its name, the snow plowing device machine has to come around, do a very tight corner, and then try to come back while avoiding vehicles parked there. And so unfortunately, they have the least priority when it comes to it. And I know residents aren't happy with that, those that live in the cul-de-sacs, but really we have to look at what's best for the majority of the taxpayers and the citizens, and I think we do a good job in that respect.
Now, I know we don't have the bylaws in front of us right now, but what are the responsibilities of business owners to clear the front of their sidewalks?
Yeah, well, it's true, business and actually residents as well. I mean, the responsibility is theirs to clean the sidewalk. The roads are the responsibility of the city, and the sidewalks are the responsibility of the homeowner or business owner in that case. But by and large, they do a good job. But I think in this case that while there were not as many complaints as I had anticipated, I think people did do a good job where they could. There are people that just simply, due to age or mobility issues, just simply couldn't do their area. And I always wondered why there isn't a great opportunity for young people to come out and say, listen, I'll shovel your driveway for X number of dollars. And I mean, that was a great opportunity.
You're always an entrepreneur.
Always the entrepreneur,
Well, we're going to come back on this edition of Go Island and talk about what came up at City Council on Monday night, namely a communications tower on Hammond Bay Road and supplying water to Lanceville.
Still to come, overcoming challenges with the rhythm of poetry, and Todd and Derek are loose once again in a brand new edition of Clocked.
Did you know that there are 4 times as many Aboriginal youngsters under the age of 4 than the non-Aboriginal population here in Nanaimo?
Lots of discussion at Nanaimo City Council meeting on Monday night about providing water to Lanceville. In fact, it was voted 5-3 yes to provide water to the community that neighbors are own. There's a lot of history. This has been talked about, discussed for the past 9 years. Ted Swaby is the city manager, stepping in for John Rattan because John Rattan lives in Lanceville. So to give me a bit of background, a bit of context about why we're giving water to Lanceville.
So you're right, about 2005 Lanceville approached the City Council and asked them if they would provide water to their community, and Council entered into an MOU at that time to initiate discussions, and it's taken that long to get to a point where Council's revisited the issue and decided to actually move forward with providing the water. The original MOU actually talked about having an alternative water source before we move forward with this, but Council's decided to move forward in advance of that and provide water now.
So besides goodwill to a neighboring municipality, how is the city benefiting from this? How are we going to be paid?
Well, certainly the cost to provide the infrastructure to get the water is totally at Lanceville's cost, so there's no cost to actually provide the water. They pay the infrastructure, as I said, to tie into our water lines. They'll also pay a water rate, just like any city taxpayer would pay to use the water.
At the same rate that anyone living in Nanaimo
That's
would
correct.
pay.
And they also pay a connection fee, which is the equivalent to the development cost charge of water for developments that happen in Nanaimo, as a way to recapture the same cost that you would have in Nanaimo to provide for future water projects.
Okay, now there has been talk about, and I guess evidence that shows that if we continue to grow as a city in the way that we have, we're going to have a water shortage for our own citizens by 2020, 2024. So why would logically we give away our water when maybe there's not enough for us down the road?
Right, and keep in mind the running out of water is a bit of an art dealing with how your growth rates proceed, and it was originally based when we did the study on including Lanceville and including a large residential and golf course development in the south end, as well as an industrial and mixed-use development in the south end.
There's some benefits to working as a region?
Oh, absolutely. The province does look favorably on regional approaches for new water sources, and having provided water to the Nanaimo First Nations recently, and also providing water if it proceeds with Lanceville, would provide us that regional approach for approaching the province for a new water source.
Okay, so while Nanaimo City Council has agreed 5-3, it's now up to Lanceville to accept the proposal that Nanaimo has made to them.
Yes, that's right. They'll now take the agreement, the first draft that we provided them in terms of the technical document, and their council will review that. And we expect that it'll come back to us if there's any changes, or they'll provide us the okay to move forward with the agreement as it was written.
Okay, I'm assuming people can get a closer look at the details online, right? Just visiting the City of Nanaimo website and...
Absolutely. It was an open discussion last night, including the agreement was on the agenda for council's review, and the public's more than welcome to look at it.
Awesome. Thanks, Ted.
You're welcome.
I'm going to throw things over now to Kelly Robinson, switching from water issues to poetry and health, and how reading and writing poetry can help with some mental illness challenges. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. Lots of discussion at Monday night City Council regarding a proposed communications tower on Hammond Bay Road. It was voted down.
It was voted down. Actually, the vote was 8-1 to turn it down, and it's a very controversial and a very difficult subject. I think the important thing to realize is that council didn't turn down the tower per se, it turned down that location of the tower. There's a problem with a signal, a very weak signal in some areas around the Hammond Bay. There is no cellular signal. So,
and why is that a problem? So we have to live without our cell phones for 5 minutes driving through, or you're in your home and you can use your landline?
Well, but the point is, if you need to get a hold of 911 for any reason, an accident, an injury, a fire, and one of the problems is that more calls are made to 911 call centers from cellular phones than there are in landlines. So,
and then if there's another fire hall built in Nanaimo, that's
even
a
more acute
possible location in that Hammond Bay area.
Hammond Bay was one of the areas we're designating for a future fire hall, and obviously having a strong signal is vitally important. I think the point is that council recognizes that what the problem is, and we do need to have a tower. If there is another location that isn't quite so close to people and residences and children and schools and so on, and play schools, then we would prefer that.
Mm-hmm. This was the third proposal and third time turned down. What happens next?
Well, the telecommunication company is just going to have to come back and look for another site. There will have to be one found, and maybe as time progresses we might have to be a little bit more understanding of the options left on it, because I don't think they want to continually come to us looking for options. Mm-hmm. We need to have that tower at some point. We all understand that. It's a matter of where.
And like so many other issues, the municipal level is one piece of the puzzle, and in the end it's Industry Canada and the federal government that is going to say yes or no.
Exactly. So all they really want us to say is, are you in support or not? But the final decision, you're right, is going to be made by the federal government through Industry Canada. So it's a little bit of a frustration for us because, I mean, we're going through all the work and planning all these things, doing all the research on it, but somebody else at the higher level of government will make the final decision.
I sort of know how that feels when it comes to additions of clocked. I put all this planning and forethought into predicting how Todd and Derek are going to behave, and hopefully they will not succeed in beating the clock. Well, we have a new installment coming up. Here now is Todd and Derek. A huge shout out to Shelley Hemming for sending us that edition of Clock. That's what we want, you to send us ideas to stump Todd and Derek. They won that one. I don't think it was record time, but it doesn't matter. In the end, what really matters is that you are entertained and learn something about the community in which you live. That brings us to the end of this edition of Go Island. Thanks for watching. I'm Overtime. We'll see you next time.
Go Island is brought to you by German Auto Import Network. Clothing supplied by Catwalk Fashions. Kate's Hair and Aesthetics provided by Matteo Salon.